Waiting in the wings at the Mastercard Foundation Financial Inclusion Summit is Gugulethu. Gugu, over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Lindsay. We'll be sure to share some interesting insights with you that came through from the Mastercard Foundation Symposium on Financial Inclusion, as you've mentioned. And really what's at the heart of the theme this year is putting clients at the center of it all. So we've just come away from a panel discussion where we've spoken to leaders and interrogated how leadership together with organizations within their culture need to employ this and implement it as a strategy. And later on in the day, there will be conversations as well with regard to the business case of a client-centric approach, together with understanding the client experience overall. But before we get into that, let's have a quick conversation with Anne Miles, who is the Director for Financial Inclusion here at the Mastercard Foundation and joins us live. Thank you so much for your time today, Anne. The theme with regard to financial inclusion, walk us through again why this is so important, not only for the African continent, but the overall individuals across the globe who are excluded financially.
Financial inclusion is really important because it provides people who don't have access to financial service, be it a bank account, a savings account, insurance, or a payment mechanism. It provides them with an opportunity to, through these services, to become active agents in the markets, in the economies. Just think, imagine how you would live if you didn't have a bank account or a mobile money device or a way to save or get insurance. How would you be able to pay for education? How would you be able to pay for your health care or take care of investing in a business? So this is why financial inclusion is so fundamentally important. Really important to help people engage in economies and in markets. And today there are over 2 billion people around the world who are excluded. So our huge task at hand is to bring them into markets and into economies through financial inclusion.
I understand the catalyst that has been highlighted is in implementing a client-centric approach, not just product development, but really understanding that you keep the client in the room. And that was one of the key takeaways that came out of our panel discussion earlier today, that ensure that the client is in the room and that you pay attention to their needs and consistently interrogate if you are serving the purpose correctly. In your view, is this the right thought, and are we seeing that leaders are responding positively to such analysis?
I think it's the right emphasis, it's the right focus. I think we're seeing where this is working right, especially when you bring this together with information and technology. The way people are thinking about disruptive models is they're responding to what needs are of clients. So if you think about Uber, people want to be able to get in a cab immediately. You have to have a sense of what it is that people need and want, proximity, cost, availability. Uber has completely disrupted our traditional sort of taxi model. Airbnb is another example of something that's slowly disrupting or very quickly disrupting the tourism and hotel business. Financial services truly is in a similar stage through the advent of mobile financial services. We're at a really interesting flex point. Where this will give people who are paying attention to clients, combined with technology, an opportunity to scale solutions for unbanked people.
You've been in the banking industry for many years, and from your observations, are we on the right track when it comes to not only the move and progress being made on financial inclusion, but the client-centric approach that we are looking to implement going forward?
I don't think we have a choice. So I started out as a retail banker. This is a long time ago, 30 years ago. The world has changed, and the pace of change is faster than it's ever been before. So we have to engage differently. We can't just sit behind a teller window or a bank desk and distribute financial services or sell financial services. It has to be done in a very, very different way now. So I think this pace of change is very rapid, and I think we have to work and respond to this change very quickly. And doing so, but always remembering at the end of the day who the client is. Can't ignore that.
And that has certainly come through quite extensively. But I also want to gauge your views on the thought of leadership as well as the examples that we heard of this morning. Cele, we've got the likes of Equity Bank also being represented today, and even Zuna. Walk us through, in your opinion, are we seeing the leadership as well as the necessary change when it comes to financial inclusion and the client-centric approach, given the examples that I've mentioned?
I think we're seeing a shift in the thinking, but it's going to take some time. I think some people still think it's business as usual. Let's do better market research. Let's do better client segmentation. But what they need to think about is the entire organization. How do you bring the whole organization around client centricity? So it does have to come from the top. It does have to be imbued at the leadership level. And they have to reward people, whether it's at the middle management level, the front line level, people serving and working with clients. It has to be imbued throughout the organization. And I think financial services is moving in that direction, but they'll have to do it faster. Otherwise, there are other models that will come in and disrupt that very quickly.
Just to close off with, another element that you're passionate about is women and women being involved in financial inclusion. According to the World Bank, it will take about 80 more years before the African continent sees any kind of gender parity. Does this, again, weigh heavy on your mind when it comes to the involvement of women in financial inclusion?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the data that we're seeing, the statistics, are women are lower users of mobile financial services. There are bigger challenges around digital literacy and even access. They may not even have their own SIM card or PIN number. So there are a lot of barriers to break and constraints, but what I'm hoping is that we can do this faster now. We don't have to wait for decades to see that kind of parity.
And thank you so much for your time today, and fantastic hearing your insights. That was Anne Miles, who's the Director for Financial Inclusion at the Mastercard Foundation.